Okay, so we have like genes in a certain population. Okay, so this is like a population. When you look at an individual, okay, individual actually contains 23 pairs of chromosome, and in there they have a specific combination of genes, okay? But that individual actually passes along some specific gene to the offspring. You know what I mean? Okay, so the population keeps changing because, first of all, each individual actually passes along only half the genes, okay? So each individual just fertilizes and then passes along specific combination of gene, okay? Also, when they pass along the gene, okay, the mutation of gene actually occurs, right? So mutation of DNA sequence is actually very common, all right? So we learned about some mutation where it changes the amino acid, but also there are silent mutation. That means it's not going to change anything. You know what I mean? So if you have something like this, okay, let's say this codes for some kind of amino acids, right? But this, let's say this changes to something else like C, okay? But there are some cases where this can code for the same thing or similar amino acid as the previous one, okay? So in that case, there is going to be no problem, okay, to the living of this organism, all right? So organism will pass along the mutated DNA sequence to the offspring, okay? So when that keeps happening, actually, multiple of mutation in the DNA will get built up, okay? So after that, actually, after a certain period of time, okay, gene pool, okay, in the offspring, okay, compared to the previous population is going to be different because of the mutation, because of the change in the DNA sequence. You know what I mean? So that small change within the DNA, that is called microevolution, okay? That refers to change in gene pool. Okay, probability of genes, okay, how common the gene is in the DNA, that actually gets changes. All right. And then a critical thing to remember is that individuals never change or evolve. Okay? A population is the smallest group that can evolve. A population consists of all the members of one species in one place. All right. So when we're talking about the evolution, we're not talking about the change of this individual. You know what I mean? This individual doesn't evolve. You know what I mean? Okay. But we look at one population over time, all right? So how the population actually changes the gene pool, okay, over time, not just one individual, but the overall population, how that actually change the probability, probability of like different genes, okay, and how that variety of gene actually gets changed. All right, so there are 6 areas of scientific study that provide evidence for evolution. So these are the evidence. When you go to 152, so it focuses on number 1, fossil record. Okay, so when you look at different fossils built up, okay, then you can figure out which species were living in what kind of what decade, right? In which period of time. So 99% of all organisms that ever lived on Earth are now extinct. Okay, so that trace is actually recorded in the fossil. All right, so through studies of radioactive dating and half-life, we know that Earth is about that old. All right, you should know the term that's called transition fossils that actually gives like an intermediate species between 2 different species. Okay, so just by looking at those different fossils built up over time, then you can figure out which species were present in the previous year, and then how it has evolved to different species. Okay, and also prokaryotic cells are the oldest fossils and were the first organisms to develop on Earth. All right, so remember, it is always the prokaryotes that were the ancestor. Okay, and we talked about the endosymbiosis before, right? So prokaryote actually evolved into eukaryote. Okay, and eukaryote, that was unicellular. So there were